Us now live to Professor Kobi Michael, Senior Research Fellow at the Institute for National Security Studies. Thank you very much, Professor Michael, for joining us. So we've just heard Police Commissioner Kobi Shabtai talking about the identity of the terrorist, of the perpetrator, a 27-year-old from the area of Jenin, carrying with him a letter clearly stating that he arrived there with the clear purpose of becoming a shaheed, of committing this terror attack. What do you make of it, Professor Michael?
Good evening. I would say that I have three general comments in this regard. The first one is that I think that what we are witnessing is a sort of a version of a suicide terrorism, because such people, when they come to commit such a terror attack, they know that they will not go back home alive. So in this regard, this is a version, an evolution of a suicide terrorism. The second comment is the idea that such a young fellow has a gun with him, and we know that a gun or a pistol costs some dozens of thousands of shekels. And I assume that somebody provides him with this gun, which means that Hamas or the Palestinian Islamic Jihad or any other organization is involved in this terror attack in this way or another. And the third comment that I would like to refer to is the idea that this is another event in a terror campaign that we are in since March 22, and with all the 100% of efforts that the Israeli security apparatuses do, there is no 100% of success. And although some hundreds of such terror attacks were prevented in the last months, from time to time, they are succeeding in committing such terror attacks.
And let's dive further into that to that point, Professor Michael, because as you've mentioned, we are talking about a perpetrator arriving at the scene with a gun, and we are often talking about the intelligence struggle of intercepting what is happening between the ears of an individual, right? You cannot intercept any or every lone wolf attack, but here you are talking about guns, about the live munitions that are being distributed across the West Bank in areas that are dubbed, to begin with, as terror hotbeds. Can anything be done to prevent or minimize the amount of live munition that is circulating in the West Bank?
Yes, and actually it's already done. I mean, just 2 or 3 days ago, we were informed about a huge smuggling that was prevented in the Jordan Valley of weapons. And we know that the Iranians and Hezbollah are doing huge efforts in order to smuggle weapons from Jordan through the Jordan Valley to Jenin area. And we know that Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad are making tremendous efforts in order to provide the youngsters, Palestinian youngsters, with weapons, to guide them and to send them to terrorize Israelis in the West Bank and inside the state of Israel. And I think that what we saw in the last operation of Home and Garden is another trial of the Israeli security apparatuses to confiscate or to tackle these infrastructures. But this is going to be a very long journey. I mean, it's not something that we can finalize in one phase or one step, and it will take time.
And Professor Michael, Hamas, as mentioned earlier in the broadcast, is hailing this terror attack, the terror attacker, but is not claiming responsibility over this attack. Is it part of Hamas's attempts to quote unquote Gazanize the West Bank?
I think that this is a sort of behavior code of Hamas that on the one hand, they don't take an official responsibility, but on the other hand, they glorify these terror attacks, and they provide guns and they provide money to people in order to commit such terror attacks. And this is part of their efforts to build their capacities in the West Bank, and they see in front of their eyes the collapse of the Palestinian Authority. Actually, they do efforts in order to undermine the stability of the Palestinian Authority, and I think that this is the reason that there will be no reconciliation between the Palestinian Authority and Hamas, and they will continue in their efforts in order to undermine stability and to gain control over the entire Palestinian territories.
And Hamas officials in the West Bank are connecting what we've seen overnight near Ramallah, near the Burqa village, those violent, those fatal scuffles between settlers and Palestinians in which a 19-year-old Palestinian was killed. They're connecting the event last night to today's event. How do you see it?
I'm not sure that there is any direct connection between the event yesterday in Burqa village and the event today in Tel Aviv. But it is pretty understood that they will try to make the connections, because the event yesterday in Burqa was a very severe event. In my eyes, is a terror event from the Jewish side, from the Israeli side. But generally speaking, the Palestinians do not need too many excuses in order to justify terror attacks against Israelis and Jews, be it in the West Bank or in Tel Aviv.
Yes, Professor Kobi Michael, Senior Research Fellow at the Institute for National Security Studies, thank you very much for your insights and your analysis.